Sherri Ybarra joining us in studio. Do you pronounce it, by the way? We've got to maybe get this because I hear callers and various people talk about this. She's, of course, she runs our education department here in the state of Idaho. You know, Ybarra, Ibarra, and I hear all the different pronunciations. Which one is the correct one?
It's Ibarra. The Y makes an E sound. It's Basque.
Okay, and we wanted to share that with folks this morning, so they will at least know the sound, but they can read it on the ballot, and it's Ybarra.
Correct.
And so those people who voted early like me, we've already figured that part out. 7:35. Bill Colley with you as well on Magic Valley this morning on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. And we're at 47. We got to talk a lot before the primary. You got through that. Summer was busy, obviously, and then you've done the whole county fair and state fair circuit, and now it's really been crunch time. And of course, you're dealing with the mainstream media that doesn't like anyone that's got an R behind their name. But we've talked, I think, a lot on air on this program about how those types of endorsements are really irrelevant to the voting public, I suppose. And this is an opportunity for you to tell people, look beyond that because you can sort of list some of your accomplishments.
Right. I'm very excited to have an opportunity to be here this morning. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and pleased to be able to talk to the voters this morning. And, I think I know the main difference between myself and my opponent is experience. I served in every capacity as a teacher, as a vice principal and a principal, a curriculum director, a federal programs director, and a district office administrator, and now as our state superintendent of public instruction. And I also have a proven track record of success now. Our math and reading scores are on the rise. Our graduation rates are up. We just released our ACT scores, which is our college entrance exams for our kids. And our students have scored above the national average on ACT results, and which has catapulted Idaho to number 5 for college and career ready. We've saved the taxpayers nearly $6 million each year since I took office in internet costs by putting local internet contracts for schools back into the hands of the local districts. That's local control at its finest. So I think the voters have an opportunity to see a real stark contrast between myself and my opponent.
It was interesting because at the debate between the candidates for governor a couple of weeks ago, Brad Little's opponent made some comments about state education and where we were, and then I saw the fact checks came out afterward, and you say, well, where are these people getting this stuff from? Because it wasn't factual at all. And you're dealing with obviously another party that's trying to sell its product, maybe the simplest way to put that. But there's a lot of disinformation out there.
There is, and that I think what you're referring to is that, Idaho is ranked 48th in the nation for education, and where that's coming from is a Washington, D.C. based media outlet that has never set foot in the state of Idaho. And it has over 30 indicators rolled into that one statistic. And I'll give you a couple of examples. We tore that statistic apart, my team and myself. And they have in there some of the questions that they ask our families are, how many languages do you speak at home? What is your income level? Do you have 2 parents at home? Are you a 1-income family? How many folks in your family have a post-secondary education? I have 3 degrees in my household, but my husband is an Air Force veteran, a member of the VFW, and a police officer. So he doesn't have a post-secondary degree, but he has quite a bit of training and served our country. So our family would have gotten a black X next to our name. So that kind of explains, that statistic is not really, it's very manipulative. But we have very clear statistics on how our kids are performing. And I'll give you another example.
Mm-hmm.
The National Assessment of Educational Progress, or the NAEP for short, is a test that's been around since the 60s. It's very trusted by teachers and parents, grandparents all across the nation. It is the only apples to apples comparison test of our students and against their peers. Idaho, in reading alone, outperformed every state in the nation except for 2. So I think that's a good indicator that statistic is very manipulative. Our students are doing very well, and it says a lot about our educators and what they're doing to support our students to achieve. I also would like to add to that, I was in Blackfoot at a back-to-school event with some educators kicking off the beginning of the year, and they had a guest speaker, a keynote speaker, that had traveled all over the nation, and he sat and listened to me talk about that statistic and how manipulative it is, and how it came from a Washington D.C. based media outlet, and who it's funded by is also quite shocking too. But that's a conversation for a different day. But he said, when I finished speaking to the crowd, I said, well, you're not 48th. Our kids are doing great. We had a 5-year plan for education. We're seeing those gains. Everybody's doing a great job. Of course, we have things that we need to work on, but we need to work on the educator shortage and safety. But anyway, back to the keynote speaker who had been traveling all over the nation. I said, you're not 48th, not by a long shot. And he stood up and he said, well, that's interesting, Superintendent Ybarra, because I was traveling and Alaska's claiming that they're 48th and Indiana's claiming that they're 48th, and the crowd just fell apart laughing. So again, another proof that it's a very manipulative statistic.
Wanted to point out Sherri Ybarra joining us in the studio, and what they call it, some people call you commissioner, some director, but you're superintendent, right?
Superintendent of Public Instruction, yes.
And you will find that on the ballot. If you've not yet voted, you'll find it Election Day. It's 48-741 on Magic Valley this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com with Bill Colley. For a lot of people out there who look at this, and we've heard this a lot on the air, there's a lot of calls in the public, at least, for greater emphasis on tech education. And you mentioned your husband's background. In the Air Force, he got an excellent tech education. And the fact of the matter is a lot of new jobs out there are coming along, and they really, my background, in college, I don't do a lot with my hands. And I found when I graduated, there weren't a lot of jobs available for people who had history and English type of backgrounds. And so we have an emphasis, I guess, a renewed emphasis in Idaho on training those people for the future.
Correct. We used to call it vocational technical education, and now we call it CTE, or career technical education. And what we've done to really build strengths around keeping our kids in Idaho, and career technical education has something called badges, where kids can earn badges as they work through their career technical education. Or, like I said, it used to be called vocational technical, VOTEC for short, back in the day when I was a kid. But they can earn badges, which tells the world what they can do. Career technical education touches every component of the job market today. It's in agriculture, it's in natural resources, it's in business. And so it's a way to keep kids in school. It's a way to keep our students in Idaho staying in Idaho. And over 80,000 kids in the state of Idaho are now taking career technical education and earning those badges that show the world what it is that they can do. It's also on-the-job training. It's apprenticeships. Also, the state of Idaho, which we're very proud of, recently just lowered the opportunity down to our middle school students, 7th and 8th graders, to have the opportunity to join career technical education classes. So we are seeing the gains in that. There's lots of benefits for making sure that we connect the dots for kids. The other thing we want to do is make sure our students have a foot in both lanes. So we also offer college entrance exams for all students at the same time, while if they choose to go into a career technical education, at any time they change their mind, they have a foot in both lanes for their career path.
I was going to say, those of us with that liberal arts background, there's nothing wrong with that. But the fact of the matter is, I couldn't fix a pivot to save my life. Those are the key things that we need to look at.
Right. And we're hearing over and over again how folks are saying, I need my mechanic. I need someone, my guy who comes in and fixes my dishwasher. You can't find those people those days. And again, that's how we increase graduation rates. That's how we keep kids engaged, interested in using their hands, and interested in those careers specifically. And we know as adults that we need those folks. I couldn't fix a dishwasher or a washing machine, and I know nothing about cars. So we really need to make sure that we're connecting kids to careers of that nature.
I know a lot about an automobile. You put some gas in it, and then you turn the key. And...
Exactly. Exactly. And the other thing, a lot of that is motivation and human nature. Our kids have the right to choose the path that they want to take. We just want to make sure that they're well prepared. We all know when we were 18, how many of us couldn't make a decision back then. I have an 18-year-old at home right now who's a public school student who has changed his mind the last 3 months several times. So we want to make sure that our kids are well prepared, well rounded, and have a foot in both lanes should they change their mind later.
Sherri Ybarra, I want to thank you for coming by today, Superintendent of Public Instruction in Idaho, and we wish you the best of luck on Election Day.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for the invite. I really enjoyed it.
All right, coming up next, Rush Limbaugh's Morning Update, and then we're going to be joined by Idaho Secretary of State. It's 48 at 7:45 on KLIX.